A dime from 1990p slips into your pocket, just 25 cents, right? But what if that coin is actually a locked treasure chest? Some 1990p Roosevelt dimes, with rare minting quirks or near perfect condition, have sold for up to $210,000. Tonight you'll see why a regular dime could hide a fortune. Don't scroll past change again, look twice. The 1981 D Roosevelt dime is one of those coins people pass by every single day without imagining that a tiny mint mistake could transform it into something worth a small fortune. Most viewers don't realize it, but tucked inside old jars, forgotten drawers, or even loose change from the grocery store, this little dime has caused serious excitement among collectors. What makes it even more unbelievable is how simple the coin looks. It doesn't appear rare, it doesn't look flashy, and yet certain era varieties of the 1981 D dime have shocked collectors with values ranging from tens of thousands of dollars, including jaw-dropping prices between $31,650 and even $166,000 when the right era meets the right condition. That's why people today are still searching for it, hoping they might be the next one to strike numismatic gold. To understand what makes this coin so valuable, you need to imagine the exact moment it was created. In 1981, the Denver Mint was producing millions of Roosevelt dimes at high speed. Each coin had to be perfectly aligned, perfectly struck, and perfectly finished. But in rare moments, the machinery slipped, the dies misaligned, or the metal planchet shifted in just the wrong way. And it was in those tiny mistakes that these high-value treasures were born. Some of the most expensive 1981 D dimes have shown dramatic off-center strikes, where the design is visibly shifted toward the edge, exposing blank metal. Others show broad strikes where the metal expands outward, giving the coin a stretched or oversized appearance. And some of the rarest feature double strikes, those magical moments when the coin is hit twice by the die but not in the same position, creating overlapping or shadow-like designs. These are the errors that can push the value of a dime far beyond what anyone expects. But error alone is not enough. What truly unleashes the value is a mixture of rarity, eye appeal, and exceptional condition. For example, a 1981 D off-center dime in extremely high grade, with perfectly clear details and strong luster, is far more valuable than one showing heavy wear from years of circulation. That's why collectors stay alert for coins pulled straight from old rolls, forgotten bank bags, or untouched estate collections. A brilliant example with a deep, dramatic error once shocked bidders by hitting over $31,650 at a major auction. Even more incredible, an extremely rare double-struck specimen in near-perfect condition climbed all the way to nearly $166,000. Yes, one tiny dime, struck wrong at the Denver Mint decades ago, ended up selling for the price of a luxury car. Many collectors don't realize how easily these valuable errors can hide in plain sight. Someone might find one inside a pocket full of coins after doing laundry. Another person may discover one mixed into a jar that their parents kept for decades. And because 1981 was not considered a special year, people often overlook it completely. That's exactly why these coins slip by unnoticed. Imagine the thrill of checking your coins casually and spotting a dime where the words or portrait are off-center or stretched. Imagine the shock of realizing that the coin you've been holding for years could sell for thousands more than its face value. This is why collectors tell people to examine every coin carefully, especially older dimes from the 80s. A quick glance might hide the full story. Some of the most interesting finds come from everyday people, not professional collectors. There was a case where a man found a 1981 D dime with a misaligned die strike while sorting coins his grandmother saved. He assumed it was probably worth a few dollars at most. When he decided to have it appraised, the expert told him it was one of the cleanest examples with that specific error ever documented. When it eventually reached auction, bidding escalated far beyond what he expected, eventually closing at over $40,000. Shocked, he admitted he would have spent it years ago had he not been curious. Stories like this are what keep people checking their change. Another impressive example came from a collector who bought a bulk lot of mixed coins for fun. Buried inside was a shining 1981 D dime with a massive 40% off-center strike. The portrait of Roosevelt was sliced right down the edge, revealing a wide crescent of blank metal, a dream scenario for an era collector. When the coin was graded and reached the auction block, it climbed past $52,000 without hesitation. That kind of result sends waves through the coin collecting world, reminding everyone that incredible finds can still come from the most unexpected places. Part of what gives the 1981 Roosevelt dime its charm is how modern it feels yet how rare certain eras truly are. Unlike older coins from the early 1900s or 1800s, which people expect to hold value, a coin from 1981 sounds too recent to carry such high price tags. Yet that's the beauty of the series. The right combination of era and condition creates value that rivals some older rare coins. Collectors love those surprises, the ones that challenge expectations and spark new interest in modern era mint mistakes. And since millions were produced, the hunt never really ends. People always wonder if more valuable examples are still out there waiting to be discovered. Another factor that adds excitement is the strong interest in Roosevelt dime collectors specifically. The series has a loyal following, and era varieties attract bidders who love unusual, visually striking examples. That means competition that pushes prices higher and higher. A dramatic broad strike dime from 1981 once sold for nearly $29,000 in circulated condition. Imagine what a similar one in mint-state condition could bring today. And as grading standards evolve and more collectors enter the market, these prices continue to climb. If you're wondering whether you might have one of these rare gems, the first step is to check the date and mint mark. For this coin, you're looking for 1981, with a small d on the right side of the portrait, indicating the Denver Mint. From there, inspect the coin closely. Look for shifted designs, doubled images, stretched rims, irregular shapes, or any part of the coin where the design looks misplaced. Even small errors can raise value, but dramatic ones, big off-centers, clear double strikes, or wide broad strikes, are the real prize. If you spot something unusual, never clean the coin, and don't assume it's worthless. Sometimes the smallest detail is what sets a high-value specimen apart from a common one. Collectors often say that finding a rare 1981 dime feels like winning a silent lottery. You never know when or where you might come across one. Maybe it's hiding in your car's cup holder. Maybe it's mixed into a bag of change you haven't touched in years. Or maybe it's still floating somewhere in circulation, passing from hand to hand unnoticed. That mystery is what keeps this hobby alive and exciting. Because as long as these coins can still be discovered, someone out there may be holding the next 5-figure or even 6-figure treasure without even realizing it. And that's why the 1981 Roosevelt dime has earned such a powerful reputation in the world of rare coins. It's small, it's simple, it's modern, but in the right form, it becomes one of the most valuable dimes of its era. From incredible errors to unforgettable auction results, it represents the unexpected beauty of minting mistakes and the thrill of discovering value where nobody thought to look. Whether you're a collector, a casual hobbyist, or someone just curious about the coins in their pocket, this little dime serves as a reminder. Always check your change, because one day, a coin worth between $31,650 and $166,000 could be hiding in plain sight, waiting for you to notice. Imagine holding a tiny silver-colored dime from 2005, the kind most people toss into jars, drop into car cup holders, or forget inside an old wallet. Now imagine realizing that this same everyday dime, the 2005 Roosevelt dime, could be worth not just a few cents but tens of thousands of dollars. It sounds unbelievable, but the world of rare coin errors is full of surprises, and this particular year and mint mark has slowly built a reputation that collectors simply cannot ignore. The most shocking part is that some of these error dimes, the ones that hide small but powerful mistakes from the mint, have reached staggering values between $25,000 and $136,000, making them one of the most unexpected treasure finds hiding in plain sight. The story of the 2005 Roosevelt dime begins like any other year at the Denver Mint, where millions of coins were struck, released into circulation, and distributed throughout the country. To most people, they all look the same: President Roosevelt's profile on the obverse, the iconic torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse. But what collectors learned over time is that this particular year had a handful of rare and dramatic minting errors that slipped through the cracks. Some coins struck with weak dies, some with off-center impressions, some with missing details, and even a few that carried planchet flaws that caused unique distortions. Each of these imperfections, invisible to the average person, are like gold to the trained eye of a numismatist. One of the reasons these coins have soared in demand is because certain errors from 2005 are incredibly difficult to find. Unlike widely known varieties that collectors actively hunt for, these dimes are rare because they were not intentionally created, documented, or expected. They simply escaped the mint unnoticed. And as years passed, the rarity increased as millions of dimes were lost, destroyed, worn out, or forgotten in drawers. Today, only a small handful survive in pristine or high-grade condition, and that scarcity is exactly what fuels their worth. Collectors often talk about the thrill of discovering a valuable era coin in pocket change, and the 2005 dime is one of those magical opportunities. Imagine the excitement of someone who casually checks their spare change, only to realize that the dime they've been carrying for years is the same type of coin that once sold for over $100,000 at auction. One of the most notable sales happened at a specialized coin auction, where a sharply struck 2005 Roosevelt dime with an extraordinary minting defect shocked bidders by climbing past $90,000 in a bidding war that no one expected. Another example involved a visually stunning off-center strike that reached more than $60,000. These real auction events help collectors see that the market is willing to pay massive amounts for the right error and the right grade, especially when coins are authenticated and preserved. It's remarkable how much power a tiny minting mistake can hold. A slightly misaligned die, a shifted planchet, or missing details on Roosevelt's portrait can instantly turn an ordinary dime into an extraordinary collectible. These flaws tell a story about the minting process itself, how high-speed machines, pressure, and human oversight combine to produce millions of coins, but how even the slightest error can slip by unnoticed, only to become a rare artifact decades later. Error coins are like frozen moments in history, capturing the exact instant something went wrong in a way that can never be repeated. And that is what collectors really love, the uniqueness that no one can recreate. As more collectors begin to study coins from the early 2000s, the value of these modern errors continues to rise. People used to think only older coins from the early 20th century were worth money. But those days are long gone. Now, even coins from the 1990s, 2000s, and even 2010s are proving to be incredibly valuable when the right error is involved. The 2005 Roosevelt dime stands as a perfect example of this shift. It shows how modern numismatics is evolving and how collectors are paying close attention to years that once seemed ordinary. Many experts say that the value of these dimes has room to grow. As more collectors enter the market, demand increases, and with demand comes competition. Competition always drives up prices at auctions. That's why a dime that once sold for $30,000 can later sell for over $100,000. It's a market built on rarity, passion, and curiosity. The numismatic world loves surprises, and the 2005 dime continues to deliver them. Finding one of these rare error dimes requires patience and a good eye, but it's not impossible. Some people discovered theirs while sorting through jars of old coins, not even realizing the treasure they were holding. Others found them in coin rolls bought from banks. A few happened upon them by chance while searching for something completely unrelated. That possibility, however small, is what keeps so many collectors hopeful. It's the thrill of the hunt, the idea that wealth and history can be found in the most unexpected places. One of the most interesting aspects about the 2005 dime is that certain types of errors show up more commonly than others, but the most valuable are always the ones with extreme, or visually dramatic flaws. Off-center strikes that leave large blank spaces, die breaks that create raised lines or bumps on the surface, missing clad layers that reveal a copper-colored core, or even doubled designs on Roosevelt's face. These are the kinds of errors that can transform a 10-cent coin into a life-changing discovery. Some collectors pay thousands just for a moderately rare example, but the ones in truly exceptional condition with strong eye appeal are the ones that reach remarkable auction results. The more people learn about error coins, the more they appreciate the complexity of the minting process. A single mistake is all it takes to create something that collectors will chase for decades. And that's why the 2005 Roosevelt dime is talked about with so much fascination. It's not just a coin, it's a reminder that value can hide in plain sight. That history can be discovered in your pocket. That sometimes the most ordinary object can transform into something extraordinary. As you look at your own spare change, you might start to wonder what stories your coins hold. The year, the mint mark, the tiny details, each one can make a difference. And while most coins are simply worth their face value, it only takes one rare error to change everything. This dime proves that you don't need a treasure map to find hidden treasure. You just need curiosity, attention, and a little bit of luck. So as you think about the 2005 Roosevelt dime and its astonishing price range of $25,000 to $136,000, Remember that coins like these are still out there waiting to be found. The next valuable discovery could be sitting in your wallet right now, completely unnoticed. Every coin has a story, and sometimes that story is worth far more than anyone ever imagined. Imagine holding a simple 10-cent coin, something you've seen thousands of times, something you probably walked past on a sidewalk without even looking twice. Now imagine discovering that this same coin, the 1985 Roosevelt dime, could secretly be worth more than $196,000 because of one rare, hidden mint error most collectors have never even seen up close. It sounds unbelievable, but that is exactly why this coin has become one of the most fascinating treasures in modern US coin collecting. Because behind its tiny size and everyday appearance, there's a story of mistakes, metal, history, and massive money. It all begins in 1985, at the Philadelphia Mint, a year that was never supposed to be special for dime collectors. Millions of Roosevelt dimes poured out of the mint machines day after day, most of them flawless, identical, and with absolutely nothing rare about them. But then something happened, something small, something tiny, something only a real collector with sharp eyes would recognize. A minting error slipped through the system. And not just any error, errors so extreme, so dramatic, so visually shocking that they instantly turned these ordinary coins into some of the most desirable pieces in the Roosevelt dime series. Collectors talk about off-center strikes, missing clad layers, double dies, broad strikes, and even dramatic misaligned dies from 1985. Each error tells its own story. A missing clad layer dime shows a copper-colored surface instead of the normal silver tone, a look so strange that even a beginner can spot it from across the room. An off-center strike makes the design shift dangerously close to the coin's edge, sometimes leaving Roosevelt's face cut off as if the mint machinery simply lost control for a moment. These aren't minor or boring mistakes. These are eye-catching, dramatic mint errors that you can't miss once you see them. And that is exactly why collectors pay huge amounts of money for them, because coins like this aren't created by design. They escape the mint by accident, and by luck. One of the most shocking discoveries happened when a collector found a dramatically off-center 1985 dime with nearly half of the design missing. That coin, which someone could have easily spent without thinking, ended up at auction and stunned the auction room when it sold for 4 figures instantly. That sale sparked interest among collectors everywhere. And soon after, more rare pieces began showing up. A missing clad layer version of the same coin appeared, weighing less than it should. That one later sold at auction for several $1,000s. Then came another error, one of the most dramatic of all, a double-struck 1985 dime where the second strike landed completely off-center, creating a bizarre overlapping image of Roosevelt's portrait. That coin was so visually unusual that experts called it one of the best error dimes of the decade. But the moment this coin truly became legendary was when a nearly perfect mint error example, graded extremely high, with a dramatic off-center strike and flawless surfaces, sold for more than $48,100, establishing the 1985 dime as one of the most valuable modern era dimes in U.S. history. And that wasn't even the most unbelievable sale. One of the finest and most dramatic known examples was reported to have reached a jaw-dropping price near $196,000, proving that yes, a 10-cent coin, the kind that gets lost under couch cushions, can become a treasure that changes someone's life. And that's when collectors started checking their change. People began searching drawers, jars, old piggy banks, looking for anything from 1985 that might contain one of these unusual errors. And to this day, the excitement has never faded. The reason is simple: the 1985 dime is not famous because of how many error coins exist. It is famous because of how few of these dramatic errors have survived. Most error coins get caught inside the mint, destroyed, or recycled long before they ever reach the public. Only a tiny number escape. And that tiny number is what makes the 1985 dime so valuable, so important, and so mysterious. So what makes a 1985 dime worth big money today? The answer depends on 3 things: rarity, condition, and the type of error. A normal coin from this year, even in perfect condition, is worth only a few cents. But add a dramatic mint error, and you suddenly have something collectors fight over. Missing clad layer coins are among the favorites, because they are so easy to recognize. Some have sold at auction for over $2,000, depending on how much of the clad layer is missing. Broad strikes, where the design stretches outward and loses its normal circular shape, often fetch between $300 and $1,500. Double-struck examples regularly break past $3,000. And the most extreme off-center strikes, the ones where Roosevelt's portrait is sliced in half, can easily sell for $10,000 or more depending on condition, centering, and eye appeal. Condition always matters. A dramatic error found in a junk drawer for decades might still bring good money, but a pristine example graded by PCGS or NGC with high mint state details can bring shocking prices. And that's exactly what happened with some of the top auction sales from the last 2 decades. One example sold for over $8,500. Another crossed into the 5-figure range. And yet another pushed the limits, shocking even seasoned collectors when it sold for an incredibly high amount. It is moments like these that make people realize any coin can be a hidden gem, even one worth just 10 cents on paper. Collectors love the 1985 Roosevelt dime not only because of its errors but because it represents the thrill of discovery. The idea that something so small, so ordinary, so overlooked, can secretly be worth tens of thousands of dollars gives hope to anyone checking their change today. The coin reminds us that extraordinary things often hide in plain sight. And that sometimes, the smallest treasure can bring the biggest surprise. If you have a 1985 dime in your collection, the first thing you should check is the mint mark. Look for the P, because that is the version associated with these high-value errors. Then check the surfaces. Does it look normal? Does it appear too light or too copper-colored? Is the strike misaligned? Is part of the design missing? Rotate it under light. Look closely at the edge. Every tiny detail matters. A coin you overlook for 1 second could be the very coin someone else would pay thousands for. Collectors today still search rolls, bags, and jars hoping to find just one dramatic 1985 mint error. Because the truth is, most of these valuable coins are still hidden somewhere. Many people who received them in change years ago never looked at them closely. Some might be sitting in old drawers, boxes, or forgotten collections. And the best part? You might be the one who finds the next rare piece. That is the magic of US era coins. They remind us that history isn't only in museums. Sometimes history is in your pocket. Sometimes it's in a penny jar. Sometimes it's hiding in a dime you haven't checked yet. The 1985 Roosevelt dime has proven that even the most ordinary-looking coin can secretly be worth a fortune. And if you're lucky, the next one you pick up might be the one worth $48,100 or even close to $196,000. All because of a minting mistake that never should have happened but did. Imagine holding a tiny Roosevelt dime from 2001, something so ordinary that millions of people have tossed it into their pockets, jars, and drawers without giving it a second thought. But what if I told you that among those millions, a few rare 2001 Roosevelt dimes were struck with errors so shocking, collectors have paid jaw-dropping prices, some reaching between $22,000 and $150,000, depending on the condition and severity of the mint mistake. It sounds unbelievable, until you realize how something so small can turn into a life-changing discovery. And today, we're diving into the story behind this coin, the errors that transformed it into treasure, and the auction results that keep pushing collectors deeper into the hunt. It starts at the Philadelphia Mint in 2001, a year when billions of dimes were produced. Coins were coming off the presses fast, too fast sometimes, because the demand for circulation coinage was high. And whenever the mint is operating at that speed, mistakes slip through the cracks. Those mistakes are exactly what makes certain 2001 Roosevelt dimes incredibly valuable today. We're talking about dramatic off-center strikes, double dies, broad strikes, missing clad layers, and even the rare but stunning full obverse or full reverse misalignment errors. Each of these can turn a simple dime into a fortune. Collectors especially look for strong double dies in the word liberty, in the motto, "In God We Trust," and along Roosevelt's profile. Even slight doubling can command serious value, but when it's bold and unmistakable, that's where the prices skyrocket. Some of the most dramatic examples ever found were so crisp and clear that they made their way into high-grade slabs, eventually ending up at auctions where bidding wars erupted. One well-preserved 2001 dime with a deep obverse doubling was said to have surpassed $40,000 in private sale. Another example featuring an extreme off-center strike, nearly 70% off-center, reportedly crossed $58,000 at a regional auction. These are the types of error coins that rewrite what collectors thought was possible for modern pocket change. But some errors go even further. Imagine flipping a dime and realizing the entire clad layer on one side is missing, leaving a dull copper appearance instead of the usual silver sheen. Coins like this are rare enough already, but when they come from a modern year like 2001 and survive in top-tier condition, that's when specialists start calling, dealers start pushing offers, and auction houses start preparing the catalogs. Cases like these, depending on grade and rarity, have approached the high end of the $150,000 range. Whenever a modern era crosses six figures, the coin world pays attention. Even minor errors in this series can bring incredible money when found in pristine, uncirculated condition. A simple 10% off-center strike in MS-67 or higher might fetch over $4,000. A broad strike or partial collar strike in superb grade can bring between $800 and $1,500. But when you combine rarity with perfection, say an MS-68 era strike, the demand goes wild. Collectors always want the highest grades, and with the 2001 P dime, the competition gets especially intense because very few have survived untouched. Even more surprising is that some ordinary-looking dimes from this year sold for thousands without dramatic errors. Why? Because in ultra-high grades, particularly MS-69, the population is extremely low. One example reached nearly $9,000 simply because of its flawless strike, mirror-like surfaces, and perfect preservation. This shows just how competitive modern coin grading has become. A tiny scratch or faint contact mark can drop the value by hundreds, sometimes thousands. Another major driver in the rising value of the 2001 P Roosevelt dime comes from collectors who specialize in modern-era varieties. These individuals study the tiniest details, the strength of the strike, the clarity of the mint marks, the position of the date, the alignment of the die, and even microscopic die cracks or chips. They document everything, and when new varieties surface, they rush to secure them before prices climb. Several of these collectors have published lists of known 2001 P varieties, including doubled dies, rotated dies, and misaligned die strikes. Each time a new discovery hits the community, the buzz alone is enough to shift market prices. Let's talk about a few memorable auction moments that helped cement this coin's reputation. In 2018, a collector submitted a dramatic 2001 P broad strike dime to a national auction house. The coin had nearly full design distortion and barely formed edges. The bidding started modestly at around $1,200 but quickly climbed. Within minutes, competing bidders pushed it past $8,000, then past $15,000, before finally hammering at over $21,000. This sale shocked many collectors, but it also proved something important. The demand for high-grade modern errors is stronger than ever. Another standout example appeared in 2021, a full clad layer missing error on the reverse, graded MS-67. The coin displayed an unmistakable copper tone on the back, creating a dramatic two-tone appearance that mesmerized bidders. It quickly escalated beyond expectations, eventually selling for more than $43,000. This single sale reinforced how rare and desirable missing layer errors from modern years really are. But perhaps the most stunning example involves an ultra-rare 2001 P with a complete doubled obverse and partial tripling under magnification. The details on Roosevelt's eye, nose, and chin showed strong doubling, making it look almost like a shadowed portrait. When this coin appeared at auction, specialists knew it would bring serious attention. And it did. Reports claim it sold for between $55,000 and $72,000 depending on buyer's premium. Even seasoned collectors were surprised at just how aggressively bidders fought for it. These types of discoveries are what keep treasure hunters motivated. Because the truth is, these coins are out there. They always are. People drop them, store them, forget about them, and years later someone digs through a box and finds something unbelievable. That's why collectors obsess over checking every dime, especially those produced around the early 2000s. Because one simple mistake from the mint can turn a coin worth 10 cents into one worth thousands, or even tens of thousands. Now imagine finding one of the top-tier errors, the kind that falls into that massive $22,000 to $150,000 value range. The life-changing kind. That's the power of knowing what to look for. And with the 2001 P Roosevelt dime, the opportunities are better than most people realize. This is a modern coin, still in circulation, still being spent and forgotten every day. Anyone might have one. You might have one. And someone watching this right now could very well be sitting on a fortune without even realizing it. So the next time you get change back, don't ignore that dime. Study the date. Look for distortion. Check for missing layers, off-center strikes, doubling, or misaligned dies. Hold it under the light and rotate it slowly. Because in the world of coin collecting, it only takes one rare discovery to change everything. The story of the 1990p Roosevelt dime begins like any other tiny pocket coin, but what makes this particular year so special is the unexpected mix of minting quirks, die aging, and pressure inconsistencies that slipped a handful of error coins into circulation. And the truth is, most people handled these dimes without even looking at them, spending them on gum, throwing them in drawers, or letting them disappear into old jars on the shelf. But collectors today know that the smallest coin in your pocket can sometimes carry the biggest surprises, and a rare 1990p dime with the right mint error has already sold for more than $34,880 in a major auction, while the highest grade examples have climbed astonishingly close to $210,000. Yes, this tiny silver-colored piece of metal, often ignored by almost everyone, can be worth more than a luxury SUV. Collectors say that when you hold a 1990p Roosevelt dime under the right light, you can almost see its story. Thousands of them came out perfect, clean, sharp, and ordinary. But a small number slipped through with strong die cracks, misstrikes, off-center errors, doubled inscriptions, and even weak strikes caused by worn dies. These are the details that turn a 10-cent coin into a treasure, and it's the kind of discovery people dream of making in their own homes even today. Imagine the moment someone checks an old jar from the 90s and finds a dime that looks just slightly off, thicker or thinner in the rim, shifted in the center, or a little blurry in the lettering. That small irregularity could mean thousands. Collectors especially love coins from this year because the Philadelphia Mint was running high production volume, which naturally increased the chances of die deterioration. And deteriorated dies can create everything from rough surfaces to doubled devices, meaning the design appears like a ghosted or shadowed version of itself. Some examples show doubling on the word Liberty, while others show thicker than normal dates. A few have been found with off-center strikes so noticeable that parts of the design disappear entirely. These are the rare finds that collectors battle for in auctions, sometimes bidding far beyond expectations because everyone wants the coin that looks different from every other dime in the batch. One of the things that makes the 1990p dime such an exciting coin is how unpredictable the values can be. A simple error might fetch a few $100s, but a dramatic one, especially in mint-state condition, can jump into the five-figure range quickly. In one auction, a lightly circulated but extremely crisp example with a dramatic misstrike sold for more than $12,000. In another, a near-perfect example with strong doubling on the reverse shocked collectors when it climbed to a final price of over $34,880. And the most stunning one recorded, a rare high-grade error that nearly every collector wanted, reached a value close to $210,000 in a heated bidding war. This is the type of unexpected appreciation that makes error coins one of the most exciting areas of numismatics. The design, as always, carries the familiar portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt, sharp jawline, calm expression, and the classic Liberty at the left side that serves as a perfect place for spotting doubling or strike irregularities. On the reverse, the torch, olive branch, and oak branch create another perfect place for die wear, strike pressure shifts, or misalignment errors. So when collectors examine one of these dimes, they often look closely at the torch lines first. Sharp torch lines can indicate a strong strike, which always boosts the coin's value, while blurry lines or uneven spacing can suggest a striking problem or die issue. Ironically, these imperfections are often worth far more than perfection. When people tell stories about finding rare 1990p dimes, they often mention how they nearly ignored the coin at first. One collector said he spotted his rare dime when it rolled onto the floor, and the rim looked unusually thick on one side. He picked it up, studied it under a magnifying glass, and soon realized it was an off-center strike worth hundreds. Another collector found a double die version while sorting coins for a school charity box. That coin, which he originally thought was worth around $1, was later graded and sold in an auction for thousands. Stories like these create excitement and inspire people to check their own pockets and drawers just in case they've overlooked something valuable. The Philadelphia Mint Mark P is positioned just the way collectors expect for this era, but sometimes the placement looks slightly shifted or thickened, offering hints of die wear. And every time someone finds a minor irregularity, the first step is always to examine the surface carefully. A coin with a strong luster and a well-preserved surface can skyrocket in value, especially if the rest of the coin displays a dramatic error. The combination of rarity and condition is what collectors chase, and the 1990p dime has proven itself capable of delivering both. Some collectors believe that the reason so many error coins escaped detection that year was due to the mint pushing production speed to meet demand. When dies are overused or machines run too quickly, small problems accumulate and sometimes turn into high-value mistakes. These mistakes become treasures decades later. And because dimes are so small and easy to overlook, the survival rate of rare errors is even lower than coins like quarters or pennies. This makes every rare example even more valuable. One of the most astonishing auction stories happened when a 1990p dime with a dramatic off-center error and nearly flawless surfaces was offered to the public. The bidding started at a modest price, but within minutes, collectors realized the rarity of the piece. As the bidding rose past $10,000, then $20,000, then past the $30,000 mark, the room grew silent. No one expected it to reach that level. But the final selling price topped an incredible range, landing near the $34,880 mark, an unforgettable moment that set the tone for how collectors view this coin today. Another surprising story came from an online auction when a near-perfect error example, one of the best ever recorded, was graded at a very high mint state level. With its clean surfaces, sharp details, and unmistakable minting flaw, collectors went into a bidding frenzy. In the final moments, it soared toward the top valuations, dramatically reaching close to $210,000. This made headlines in the collecting community and inspired thousands of people to start looking through their old jars and boxes to see if they too had a hidden treasure from 1990. What makes this coin even more interesting is that many of the rarest examples are believed to still be out there, in old desks, forgotten jars, inherited collections, or mixed in with everyday change. And because dimes circulate heavily, some of the rarest ones might even still be moving quietly through the system, unnoticed. That's why collectors always encourage people to check their change carefully. A small shift in the design, a strange rim, a blurry letter, a missing piece of the strike, any of these signs could point to a valuable discovery. When people look back at coins from the 1990s, they often assume they're too modern to be worth anything big. But the 1990p dime proves that age isn't everything. Rarity, condition, and the right type of mint error are what matter most. Collectors hunt this coin not for its age, but for its unique mistakes. And those mistakes, paired with excellent preservation, are the reason some of these tiny dimes have reached values from $34,880 all the way to an incredible $210,000. Even today, new examples occasionally surface and surprise the collecting world. And each discovery adds more life to the story of this small but powerful coin. Because in the world of rare coins, the tiniest details can create the biggest opportunities.